Oh, Jim, it's so good to be with you today. I so appreciate you making some time on a Sunday for a short conversation about your perspectives. You know, we were talking just before we clicked record that it's almost like you and I are on a virtual walk down a long corridor, and then we're going to part and each go our separate ways. So if you'll permit me, I've got a couple of questions of you before we get to the end of the hall.
And Gary, it's great to start a Sunday with you, my friend. And out the window is the most beautiful Colorado blue sky. So let's get walking.
All right, let's take a walk together. Jim, I've known you for years and always admired and respected you, and I couldn't help but wonder, how are you serving this new reality that may be trying to emerge on the cusp of this, or on the heels of this crisis?
Well, I'm going to take that in the context, if it's okay, the context of philanthropy. So what we're doing as leaders is we're reinforcing the culture that we established in our office and how we work, and particularly, I would say particularly our core values. We have an expression at work, and it's really appropriate. Our core values never change, but everything else is subject to change because we really move fast. So we're going down to core values. We're reinforcing those. We're working on noticing and lifting up these wonderful acts of caring and sharing and generosity, actually, both that our staff is expressing and that we're hearing back from benefactors. So we're putting a greater focus on these things. We're noticing, we're being present to them and kind of celebrating them. And one thing that's kind of bugged me a little bit about what's going on with COVID and how some of our leaders are describing it is they've been calling it social distancing.
Right.
And yeah, I know you picked up on this too. It's actually physical isolation. Absolutely, it doesn't mean social isolation. It certainly doesn't mean emotional isolation. So I've had a lot of questions in the past few weeks about how we're trying to show up and how that might affect longer term, how we are in the world. And a really big question is, so how do we, and we call it well-intentioned authenticity. So the number one question I'm getting is, oh gosh, should I be calling? Will they feel that's an untoward thing? If I call benefactors, will they think it's a step one of a three-step? It's amazing. They're caught up in this fear and anxiety. And so we're doing trainings. We're doing trainings on what's naturally comfortable first, Gary, for benefactors. So project yourself out to benefactors and think, would they be comfortable if I picked up the phone and gave them a call? Then you can look inside and see if you're comfortable doing it. But this is our way of reinforcing benefactor-centric philanthropy.
Jim?
Go ahead.
Just because I know that you have so much there that you can offer that has this immediate applicability, what I'm also curious about, because I've seen you do this, can you pull the lens back a little bit? Are there any big questions that are emerging for you right now about the practice, about philanthropy's role in this space? What's emerging in your mind that might be of value to ponder from other leaders' perspectives?
Well, Gary, I think what's emerging for me is this is a very ripe opportunity to disrupt the field and the practice, in the sense that the anxiety that I've seen is coming from the transaction, the ask and making it about money. And this is a chance to switch to relational philanthropy. What I mean by that is that we can go long and deep starting now with benefactors, a whole different way of viewing how we approach them, engage them, include them. So it could be, some of your questions are about what might come out after this. And it could be this is a wonderful time to shift in our approach and engagements. I'm not sure whether I answered your question, but I kind of like my answer, so I'm sticking with it.
I like them too. Thank you. And I see the end of the hall approaching.
Oh,
but
God.
Before we part, I have to ask you right now, what are you seeing that gives you hope? Is there one thing that you can spot?
Yeah, one thing. Oh, God. I'm seeing more default settings being towards kindness. I think it's a time to examine the quality of our wants and when is enough enough. For crying out loud, at 7 p.m. last night, everyone in the neighborhood opened the doors and sang Rocky Mountain High. I mean, when do you see that? So our natural propensity that we are evolutionary hardwired for caring and sharing is present all over it. What might emerge from that? I don't know. If we're more mindful about what we eat and how we care for each other, maybe it'll even have planetary careness as an end result.
It's a huge opening, wrapped in tragedy, but it's a huge opening. And I'm so grateful to you for taking a few minutes out of a Sunday morning to share the perspective with me. I remain one of your chief admirers and have always valued you as a mentor. So thank you, Jim Hodge.
Thank you, my friend.
Till next time.